Hello summoners and welcome back to another Pro Guides video. My name is Kellen and today I'll be covering some of the latest and most powerful builds that have been rising in popularity for patch 10.2. Since season 10 has pretty much just started, a lot of you guys have been asking for some new builds that will help you climb. And luckily for you, we have a ton of connections with Korean Challenger and there are a bunch of builds that we want to share with you guys. Also, today's question of the day is which team do you predict will be the best in the LEC and the LCS coming this split? For me, I still think I gotta stick with Team Liquid and G2. I think they're still gonna look pretty strong, even with some changes. So go ahead and let us know your answers down below. Also, one more thing before we get started. Are you always getting ganked, constantly demolished? Well, don't worry, we've got you covered. Pro Guides is the #1 proven way to quickly level up your League of Legends skills. Whether you're looking for tier lists, champion guides, coaching, or courses from your favorite pro players, Pro Guides is where you'll find them. Even players like Nightblue, BunnyFuFu, BoxBox, and LocoDoco support Pro Guides, so what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description down below and start improving right now. And with all that stuff being said, let's jump into the video. The first build that we will cover today will be for the new champion, Set. Now, Set's been around for quite a few weeks now, and most of his standard builds have been somewhat optimized, but just when you think the builds are set in stone, the Koreans always come up with a brand new build that might just become the new standard. For runes, you'll take the regular Conquer, Triumph, Tenacity, and Last Stand, followed by Resolve for Shield Bash and Revitalize. However, for items, you'll go Tiamat, which later on builds into Titanic Hydra, Ninja Tabby, Black Cleaver, Phantom Dancer, Death's Dance, and a Gargoyle Stoneplate. The reason why PD is chosen over Sterix is because it really increases your 1v1 and split push threat, while also being a much cheaper item overall. On top of that, it grants you the lifeline shield while also increasing your movement speed per every auto. This will help you kite and catch up to your opponent much faster, and it makes a huge difference since Set is not that mobile. Next time you play Set in normals, I want you to try this build out for yourself. You'll be surprised at how much better PD will feel over Sterix. Next up in the top lane, we have a build for Zac. If you've been watching our videos for the past few weeks, you would have noticed that we mentioned this playstyle in our sleeper OP builds for 10.1. However, it turns out that this build is no longer sleeper OP, but it's now pretty mainstream OP since almost every pro player around the world is starting to try it out. For runes, go Conquer, Triumph, Legend Tenacity, and Last Stand, followed by Resolve secondary for Bone Plating and Revitalize. For items, go Sunfire Cape into Spirit Visage, Ninja Tabby, Leandries, Warmogs, and a Stoneplate. This AP Bruiser style build is surprisingly effective against most of the current top lane meta champions, and you'll be surprised at how good his dueling is. If you combine the healing from Conqueror with his Blob passive, you know what, he's kind of unkillable in a 1v1, and most top laners don't even have enough damage to let alone proc the passive and then kill him. However, one thing you should note is that you should permaban Vayne if you lock in this pick. Other ADCs or other ranged top laners like Lucian or Quinn aren't that bad, but Vayne is completely unwinnable during almost all stages of the game. Lastly, for top lane, we have a brand new build for Sion. Sion is one of the unique champions in the top lane who really never seems to stick to one rune. Oftentimes he'll go for Grasp, but then you'll see other builds like Glacial Augment, Aftershock, Comet, stuff like that. And, well, on the Korean server, they've decided to start taking Omnistone as his main rune due to the flexibility with the other keystones that we just mentioned. For runes, go Omnistone, Boots, Minion Dematerializer, and Cosmic Insight, and then Resolve for Second Wind and Overgrowth. For items, you want to grab yourself an Adaptive Helm, Merc Treads, Frozen Heart, Warmogs, Gargoyles, and a Sterix Gauge. And yes, you heard that right, Koreans have been building Frozen Heart once again since now this item is insanely strong. The 10 armor buff at the start of the patch really does make a huge difference, especially because the item is just so cheap. So next time you play versus a ranged top laner like Lucian or Quinn, go ahead and build Frozen Heart because it's going to tilt them. Here's a quick recap for all of the builds that we mentioned in the top lane. Alright, next up we have the jungle. We only have one new build for junglers this patch, and that's for Trundle. For those unaware, he received 2 pretty big buffs this patch, and it's now increased his win rate by quite a bit. The movement speed buff on his W has been buffed by 10%, and the slow on his E has been buffed by 5%. Both of these changes combining together has made his ganking potential a lot stronger, but the Koreans want even more. They've been going a similar build to the Season 8 Olaf support jungle, and it's surprisingly effective. For runes, go Predator, Cheap Shot, Zombie Ward, and Ingenious Hunter, followed by Sorcery for Nimbus Cloak and Water Walking. Now, here comes the big twist. For items, go Cinderhulk into Merc Treads, Redemption, Gargoyles, Warmogs, and a Ziggs. This build is super effective, and being honest, it's pretty much just a better version of uaRN. His early game dueling and his clear is insanely strong, and his gank potential is even stronger thanks to Predator and the new OP Nimbus Cloak for junglers. In addition to that, the cooldown on his items like Redemption is much lower thanks to Ingenious Hunter, which also allows you to impact different parts of the map at once. This is perfect for those support mains who do get autofilled, or for team comps who have a carry support instead of a peeling one. Here's a quick recap for all of the builds that we mentioned in the jungle. Alright, time to run it down mid. First up for the Korean mid lane builds, we have one for uaRN. Yeah, this build is most notably picked up by Faker and Chovy, who use it as a counterpick to AD mids like Qiyana, Aatrox, and Lucian. uaRN is super good at neutralizing these AD threats because he'll never ever be damaged enough that they can kill him, and once he gets his first armor item, it's GG. For runes, there are two builds that you can use. You can either go Aftershock or Unsealed Spellbook. Usually go Grasp on uaRN in the top lane, but in the mid lane there's a lot less trading going on, so it's much more difficult to get value out of that rune. Our analysts recommend you go for Unsealed Spellbook since it's much more fun and stronger in most cases. Then for items, you'll go Iceborne Gauntlet, Warmog's Ninja Tabby, Randuin's Adaptive Helm, and a Gargoyle Stoneplate. Give this build a try next time you see an AD assassin in the mid lane like Qiyana or Zed, because it's hilarious watching them try to kill you when you have over 300 armor and they're going to be tilted. Next up in the mid lane, we once again have another build for Set. Set mid has been rising in popularity recently, and a lot of pro players are trying it out on the Korean server. However, unlike the top lane Conqueror build, Set mid is predominantly using Aftershock and Press the Attack instead of Conqueror, and this is mainly due to mid matchups being more all-in than ones in the top lane, which are more long drawn-out fights. Your goal is to just basically all-in your opponent and try to kill them whenever you close the gap, rather than just beat them down with Conqueror over time. For runes, go PTA, Triumph, Tenacity, and Last Stand, followed by Resolve for Bone Plating and Revitalize. If you want to go Aftershock, then take Aftershock, Shield Bash, Bone Plating, and Revitalize with Precision Secondary for Tenacity and Triumph. Lastly, for items, go Trinity Force, Titanic Hydra, Maw, Ninja Tabby, Deadman's, and a GA. You could also opt for the new Phantom Dancer build like we mentioned in the top lane, but it would be less effective in the mid lane role. Here's a quick recap for all of the builds that we mentioned for mid lane. To kick things off for the bot lane, we have a playstyle which recently hit rank 1 on the Korean server with a whopping 75% win rate. Taliyah bottom is the new trend in Korean solo queue, and it's ridiculously strong. We've seen the Taliyah Pantheon combo for the bot lane before, but we're recently seeing it being picked again with almost any meta support. Champions like Leona, Nautilus, Thresh, Morgana, Pyke, and many others can do the same things that support Pantheon does, which is lock down or move your opponent to a specific spot where you can land your W and E combo. And since AD carries are usually pretty squishy, landing one burst combo can literally one-shot them and or force them out of lane. In addition to that, champions like Pyke and Blitzcrank already have some insane burst, which can add even more kill pressure to the enemy duo. For runes, you'll go Dark Harvest, Cheap Shot, Eyeball Collection, and Ravenous Hunter, followed by Precision for Triumph and Coup de Grace. For items, then you'll rush GLP into Sork Shoes, Morello, Zhonya's Deathcap, and a Void Staff. I've tried this build myself with a duo Leona support, and we killed the enemy Misfortune and Senna 11 times before the laning phase ended. Trust me, it's super low-key broken. Next up for bot lane, we have a build for Ezreal. Ever since Klepto was removed, a lot of the Ezreal mains have swapped to Conqueror or Omnistone as their main setup. However, some of the best Ez mains in the world like Viper, Nuclear, and Prey have opted to go a different build once again. For runes, take Lethal Tempo, Presence of Mind, Bloodline, and Coup de Grace, followed by Inspiration for Biscuits and Cosmic Insight. Then for items, it'll be standard with Manamune, Aeonian Boots, Triforce, Boric Last Whisper, and a Maw. If you're not a fan of the Conqueror or Omnistone builds, then you should give this one a try. I personally like Omnistone, but all three builds are viable and super powerful. And lastly, we have a bot lane duo combo of Ziggs and Nami. So recently Ziggs received some damage buffs, and they're super good and has buffed his play rate by a ton. However, there's still a problem with Ziggs in that his hitbox on his Q is still really small, and it's hard to land his abilities. However, this is where this combo comes to shine. If the Ziggs takes Glacial Augment and autos to slow, it means that Nami can easily land her bubble, and then you can both use your full combo. On top of that, the Nami E now works on spells, which will increase your damage, and this new bot lane duo is a great flex pick for ranked. Here's a quick recap for all of the builds that we mentioned for ADC. Finally, let's talk about supports. So firstly, in the supports, we have a unique pick, which is Rumble support. A lot of Korean challenger supports have been playing Rumble down bottom, and it seems really troll at first, but it's actually pretty good. For runes, go Comet, Nimbus Cloak, Absolute Focus, and Scorch, followed by Domination secondary for Zombie Ward and Ultimate Hunter. For items, get Shard of True Ice, and then Sork Shoes, Leandries, Morello, Zhonya's, and a Void Staff. And then this playstyle revolves around playing aggressive during the laning phase, and then hard carrying those team fights at the dragon with your ultimate. Your ganking pre-6 isn't that good, so you should look to stay in lane and then fight the opponents in a 2v2, but Rumble does a lot more damage and has a decent survivability level kit, so you can pick up some free kills in lane. And lastly, we have a build for Set's support. Whenever you take a look at Set's kit, he has everything that an engaged support would want except for one thing, which is a gap closer. However, on the Korean server, they've been doing something unique with Set's support and taking Hex Flash. They literally just hide in a lane bush and charge up Hex Flash and then land an instant E into an all-in. We noticed that a lot of players will pick him with champions like Ashe, Jhin, or Senna, who have some form of lockdown to help him close the gap more easily. On top of that, he can also be a pretty good peeling support because his E is technically a faster version of Thresh's Flay. So for runes, you'll go Aftershock, Shield Bash, Bone Plating, and Revitalize, followed by Inspiration for Hex Flash and Cosmic Insight. And then for items, get your Relic, Mobility Boots, Gargoyles, Knight's Vow, Warmogs, and a Ziggs. Now, I know that I said the Set build would be the last one, but I was actually just trolling you, because the last one is for Trundle support. Get it? Trundles, troll it. Trundle support is not anything new. We've seen it in past years plenty of different times, but once again, he's pretty good because of those buffs. So for runes, you'll go Aftershock, Font of Life, Bone Plating, Unflinching, followed by Inspiration for Approach Velocity and Hex Flash, then items Relic Shield, Mobies, Zeke's, Knight's Vow, Redemption, and Warmogs. You've seen Trundle support before, it's great against tanks, but you'll probably not play it because it's way too troll for you. And here's a quick recap for all of the builds that we mentioned for support. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for our OP Korean builds video for patch 10.2. If you enjoyed watching this, please leave a like, comment, and sub to our channel to be notified of our next videos. Also, check out our website for in-depth content and guides that were made by your favorite pro players. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the Rift.